can happily erase. Can you settle in bed? Or have you picked your target yet? Listen, babe. Don't you dog bite? Listen, babe.
And that is Polaris with Hey Sandy. You are listening, I know it's a surprise, you are listening to Online for Maintenance, episode number 34. Bring out the Snyder Cut of Ultima 8. I'm Connor, and this is the official podcast of MMOFallout.com. That's MMOFallout.com. You can check us out on MMOFallout.com, on Twitter at MMOFallout, on YouTube, Jamali, and you can support the show at patreon.com/MMOFallout. For as little as $1 a month, whenever I do these podcasts, I try to put them up a couple of days ahead of time for the patrons, and who knows what the future may bring. I certainly don't know what the president is going to bring, but who knows what the future is going to bring. And I'm recording this. It is September 10th, 2024. I will probably be putting this episode up immediately to the public once I finish recording. Hopefully everything records properly. I have my windows open because we're at that time of the year where it's just cool enough to be cold out, but it's just warm enough that if I close up the house, it is going to get uncomfortably warm. So I have a couple things I want to talk about. There's been a little bit of news since the last time I talked on the podcast. And I guess we can go into the big thing that happened today, which is the PS5 Pro has been officially revealed. The PS5 Pro, it boasts a new GPU, which is apparently 45% faster rendering and has 28% faster memory. It can do AI-driven upscaling. It can do better ray tracing. And it's coming out holiday season for $699 US. Cue the speculation. Cue the fanboys on social media. Will it do well? Will it do horribly? I'm sure everyone has an opinion on it. Now, me personally, I have a couple of questions that whenever I see a new mid-gen refresh that I kind of have to ask. And it's sure the PS5 Pro has possibilities for big upgrades. Now, the question is, how well will that be realized? What are the adoption rates? How many people are actually going to pick this up? And how many developers are actually going to make use of the increased power? And that's all something that we have to see. I don't know if you can... I mean, we can all speculate, but I've always had a kind of a rule that if anyone tells you that if anyone tells you that they know how well a console is going to sell, that's probably Michael Pachter doing his grift. And that guy is wrong all the time. I'm not really sure how many times he's been right. It is a $700 price tag. I don't know if it's going to be a massive... It depends on what you're expecting. And that kind of leads to what the developers expect and what Sony expects. Because in order to put the work into patching the game to run on the higher performance PS5, you're going to need to have an install base that justifies that work. And what you're going to see, I assume that's part of the reason that the AI upscaling is in there, because it's kind of Sony's way of saying, look, we'll do some of the work ourselves. It'll still look and run better on the PS5 Pro, but if you want to do a dedicated patch, go for it. And honestly, my attitude on it is I'm just going to sit back and see how it performs and what comes out of it. Because I think if you're expecting it to do horribly, if you're expecting it to sell out, if you're expecting it, well, I think it's going to sell out because it's, at least at first, it'll sell out simply because of the number of scalpers that are on the internet. The scalpers will ensure that the first couple of batches completely sells out. I'm willing to put my credibility on the line for that. The scalpers, I believe, are going to pounce on this the moment it is available, unless Sony somehow manages to control the pipeline and kind of keep them out of it. But I think it's up in the air on how well this thing can do, and more importantly, how much attention Sony pays to it, and what developers do with it. Because you're not going to see PS5 Pro only games. That would be ridiculous. To knock out 99% of the user base at this point would be suicide, unless Sony was giving a big payout as an incentive, which probably isn't going to happen. And there's also no reason to with the AI upscaling. But I am interested. It's $700. It is Wi-Fi 7, and there is an $80 disc attachment that you have to buy separately. So if you want PS5 Pro with a disc, it's nearly $800. Well, it's $800 after tax, plus a little bit of change. And again, I'm interested, and I'm not going to buy it myself because I have a PS5 and I don't need a PS5 Pro. But I'm interested in seeing what the number of people who have been waiting for a PS5 Pro because of the last couple of years that we've been getting rumors that it's coming. And I've seen plenty of people on the internet who have said that they didn't buy a PS5, they're waiting on a PS5 Pro. So I'll be interested in seeing those kind of numbers. I'll be interested if we get an idea on how many people have traded in their PS4 or the PS5 for the PS5 Pro. Again, I like to ingest information as it comes in rather than kind of play the speculation game on trying to gauge public sentiment, because the only thing we really have to go on is social media. And social media is full of a combination of console fanboys. You're going to have a lot of Xbox fanboys coming out to shit on this. You're going to have a lot of PlayStation fanboys coming out to support it. And I think that we should let the sales speak for themselves and see how it goes. People were really hyped up about the PlayStation VR 2, and that kind of came and went. It sold really well. And now you don't really hear a lot of people talking about it. I guess I don't have a lot of interesting things to say about the PS5 Pro. It's a higher quality console, and whether or not you're going to buy it, it's not a necessity. Let me put it this way. It's not like the DS to the 3DS, where if you want to keep playing new games that are coming out on it, you have to upgrade to the new system. It's like the 3DS to the 3DS XL. No, it's like the 3DS XL to the new 3DS XL. Same games. It's just a matter of value. Do you want to pay, how much is GameStop accepting PS5s for these days? Do you want to pay that much to get a bump in visuals, speed? It's a person-to-person thing, and I don't think anyone else can really make that judgment statement other than the person who's making the purchase. But it's coming out. Pre-orders start September 26th. We'll see what how well those pre-orders go, it looks like you can pre-order it through retailers, GameStop. GameStop must be loving this because it's finally their time to shine in the sun again after launching that retro program. But finally GameStop is going to get people in the store, and the PS5 Pro is the perfect thing to do that. But you'll be able to do participating retailers, GameStop, I don't know, Best Buy, do they still do video game consoles? And directly from PlayStation Direct. Okay. I personally got my PlayStation 5 from GameFly. Yes, GameFly still exists. I got my PlayStation 5 the winter that it launched because GameFly had PS5s in stock, and you had to subscribe to GameFly in order to actually order it from them. Which is kind of crazy to me because let me explain it this way. I got my PS5 from GameFly during a time when whenever a retailer got a stock of PlayStations, the store would crash and all of them would be gone within 30 seconds. Because of the scalpers and just the sheer number of people buying them. PlayStation Direct, again, one of those things that they would get stock every now and then, and they would just if you didn't get in within a millisecond of that queue going up, you didn't get a PlayStation. I got my email from GameFly at 9 o'clock in the morning that they had a stock of PS5s. I went on GameFly at 4 o'clock that afternoon as a joke to myself, where I said, you know, if they have it in stock, I'll buy one. Knowing to myself that that was certainly not the case. They still had them in stock, and I ordered one. I wanted one, but I was really just joking to myself of like, yeah, I'll get one if they still have it in stock. And they still had it in stock. Possibly because I'm the only subscriber to GameFly, outside of like 2 people that I know. But they had it. And I'm expecting that GameFly will probably have the PS5 Pro. But I'm not going to buy one. And good luck to all you people who are going to try to get a hold of the first run. And good luck to everyone who orders the first generation. Hope there aren't too many hardware faults in it. Or hope there aren't any hardware faults at all. You're really breaking new ground by buying the first generation of a new console. And I can say that because I did exactly the same thing, knowing that there was probably a good chance that the PS5 would have had issues. Why do we do these things to ourselves? I've been running this website for 15 years, and I've been telling people the whole time, stop pre-ordering and stop buying first generation consoles, and I went and did it myself. Look, we all have our vices. We all have our things that we spend a little bit too much money on, and our irresponsible purchases. Think of everything as a do as I say, not as I do kind of matter. But that's all that I have to say about the PS5 Pro until a little bit further down the line, and that's probably the only thing that I'll have to say about it on a personal level, period. But I did want to go into, I'm very happy this week. And the reason I'm very happy is because I booted up a video game. And it's a game that I've been wanting to play for 7 years now. People who follow me on Twitter will know what I'm talking about. But the game that I'm talking about is Marvel Heroes. And again, I've been waiting since 2017 to play a functioning version of this game. And it's finally out there. There's finally a functioning-ish reboot, private server of Marvel Heroes. You can log in, you can set up a server, you can join other people's servers. There is combat, there is fighting, killing enemies, characters, sidekicks. They are still working on the missions. There are item drops, but there are no stat affixes to them. There are raids, but there's no like stats on items being dropped. But they are there. You can play a semi-functioning alpha build, I guess you would call it, of Marvel Heroes. And I've been waiting for this for years. And not since City of Heroes came back have I been this happy to play an MMO private server. And I'm going to go more into it because the private server, I'm not afraid of talking about this because nobody really involved with this cares or is around anymore. Because Marvel Heroes, if you don't know, it was a Diablo-style Marvel ARPG. It was developed by David Brevik in part, and it was released by Gazillion Entertainment back in 2013. Now, I played, not to toot my own horn, but I played Marvel Heroes back in 2012. Not as any kind of, not as a press outing. I went to New York Comic Con by myself back in 2012 with a group of friends. Nothing MMO Fallout related. And they had a booth at New York Comic Con that had Marvel Heroes on it. And I played it. And I thought that it sucked. And it did suck. If you played Marvel Heroes when it first came out, it sucked. The balancing was bad. The characters were all over the place in terms of power. It wasn't good. This is why they had the big rebranding as Marvel Heroes 2015. Because the game at launch sucked. But I played it back in 2012. I have the little cards that they gave out at the Marvel Heroes booth. And I played hundreds of hours of this game from the day that it launched to the day that it shut down in 2017. And since it shut down, this has been one of those MMOs that I've been waiting. I've been keeping my ear to the ground and waiting to hear something from someone. And every now and then you'd hear little whispers of like, oh, this person's getting a project going on, this person's working on something, and then it would be dead. And I heard about this one a while back, and it was under the pretense of it's going to be a long time before this thing comes out. And I just kind of put it out of mind of like, well, I have the assurance that someone's working on it, and if it comes out, it comes out. If it dies, I'm not really that surprised. But they're basically working on it from a lot of the systems from scratch. But Marvel Heroes, it's not in a place where I'm worried about a DMCA. And people are going to think, but it's Disney. They're extremely litigious. Yes, and also no. Disney is extremely protective of copyright. Disney is not extremely protective of MMOs to an extent. And I'll explain the difference. Star Wars Galaxies, despite long since being a Disney IP, has never had to worry about Disney's copyright attorneys. What Disney has done is they have stepped in and they have used their lawyers to shut down private servers when it came out that the the servers, like I'm talking Club Penguin, where it turned out that there was all kinds of sex chat and like child grooming going on in the servers. That's when Disney puts their foot down. And otherwise, they don't care. They let the stuff go. They don't view it as lost revenue. They don't view it as competition. They look the other way. They do not pay attention, which is surprising for a company that literally has rewritten the copyright laws in order to protect Mickey Mouse. But I'm not afraid of a DMCA. So, because otherwise I wouldn't be talking about the server until it was out. I'm not worried about it getting sued or shut down, provided the people running it don't end up being shady people. And I have no reason to assume that they are until proven otherwise. But Marvel Heroes, Gazillion Entertainment. Marvel Heroes was... Here's the thing. Marvel Heroes was never profitable. We learned that from David Brevik and one or two other people, I believe, in the company, is that the game was never that profitable. Most of the time it didn't break even, and when it did, it just about broke even. So there were long periods of time where Gazillion Entertainment was behind on paying royalties. And eventually it just led to Disney pulling the license and shutting the game down. Gazillion went out of business, immediately went bankrupt. They went bankrupt so fast that the game actually shut down a month sooner than they had said it would. And disappointingly too, because the game had not that long ago launched on consoles. And you would kind of think that that might help get them back on track, but it didn't. There was the whole scandal back then where Disney was trying to undermine 20th Century Fox, and they had actually removed the Fantastic Four characters from the playable roster. If you didn't have them unlocked before a certain day, you actually couldn't unlock them. And Gazillion Entertainment, like I said, they went bankrupt, they shut down, they sold their assets to Tryon Worlds. And Tryon Worlds went bankrupt, shut down, sold their assets to Gamigo. So Gamigo, of all people, have been sitting on the Marvel Heroes assets. Not the rights. That would have to be negotiated with Disney. But they've been sitting on the assets for years. So Gamigo doesn't care. Gamigo definitely doesn't care. They have no... I don't even think the people at Gamigo know that they own the assets to Marvel Heroes. Gamigo doesn't care. Disney does not care. Gazillion and Tryon Worlds, not present to care. And I can't wait. Because the plan with the server is that they're putting out the server files. They're going to have community servers. Servers will be able to have their own rules. You'll be able to set up local servers, and it's going to be fantastic. It'll be just as it was years ago, for the most part. You know, they are building things from scratch, so they're going to try to get it as close as possible to the old one. And they even said that when the new servers come out, you'll be able to have servers where everything is unlocked from the beginning. You'll be able to have servers where characters have to grind to unlock things, because back in the day you had to grind to unlock characters, to unlock costumes. It'll be up to the person running the server, and there will be as many servers as you want, private and public. And you'll be able to set your own rules. And that's fantastic. I don't think I've been this excited for an MMO private server in as long as I've been playing MMOs. Maybe I think I would be excited if someone finally revealed a Tabula Rasa private server I don't think that's ever happening because it's NCSoft. And the last time someone tried to set up a Tabula Rasa private server, NCSoft DMCA'd it offline. But the next update is supposed to come out in December. The developers are pretty active on Discord, and I can't wait. Like, this is, like I said, since the City of Heroes came back up, and I haven't played that as nearly as much as I thought I would. But man, this is probably my shoe-in for the best news of the year. The fact that the Marvel Heroes server is alive and well and is actually going somewhere. And while I'm talking about things from the past, I'm going to segue into our next topic, which is Richard Garriott. Richard Garriott may be getting ownership of the Ultima series back. To what extent? I don't know. We don't have a lot of we don't have any information on that right now. So let's speculate. Let's do what we do best and speculate. Because a few weeks ago, Richard Garriott was talking to someone on Twitter, and he made a comment about how it seems very likely that he may be regaining ownership of the Ultima IP. And my mind immediately went to 100 different things. But we kind of have to figure out what exactly he means by that. Does it mean he can develop new games? Because that's probably not a good idea. Does it mean that he gets the ability to... Does it mean that he can access the back catalog? Because there's a lot I think we can do with that. And does it mean that he will be taking over Ultima Online and either letting the current team do their stuff or bringing on a new team? I don't know. But I would like to posit a few ideas for Richard Garriott, depending on what he can do. Now, this is just not assuming he gets full ownership back of the Ultima series. Like, he can do whatever he wants. First idea is to put out a new collection of all 9 of the Ultima games. I think that should be relatively simple. And I say relatively compared to everything else on this list. You'd have to... We already have copies of the Ultima games on GOG that run on modern systems. So I guess you would just put out, like, you wouldn't really have a need for a digital collection unless it was just getting it all as one. I think GOG already has that, but I'm talking a physical collection. I think that would be pretty neat. Cloth map, the kind of stuff that you would have a jewel case, the kind of things you would have expected, really go all out in terms of the retro vibe. Now, my other ideas are, one, the Ultima 8 Garriot Cut. Now, Ultima 8, if you don't know, if you're not a big Spoonie fan from back in the day, Ultima 8 was notoriously cut for size. Or cut for time. They cut off plot points, they cut off entire plot lines, they cut off whole parts of the map. The game was like half done by the time EA threw it out the door. And I think that you could, if you had access to the IP and you had access to the source files and all that fun stuff, you could, it would be an idea to go back and see if you can get it, see if you can finish it. Do the Garriot Cut. Do the things that Richard always wanted to do back in the day, but couldn't because EA sucks, is what I'm getting at. So you have the Ultima 8 Garriot Cut. and the Ultima 9 Garriot Cut. Because it's obvious with Ultima 9 that despite Richard Garriot's promises that they were going to fix some stuff and that they were going to take customer feedback from Ultima 8 into heart, that EA once again screwed the pooch. So maybe go back and clean up Ultima 9, clean up the fact that it crashes constantly, clean up some of the assets, some of the bugs, and release that as the Garriot Cut. Or even better, like go back and do little remasters. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul, but I think you could go back to the early games and do something with them. It worked for Wizardry. They completely overhauled that game and released it with new graphics and new stuff. I think you could do that with Ultima, and it would be maybe not a huge release, but you could do it on a smaller budget and have something come out that's really, really well enjoyed by the retro crowd and the nostalgia crowd, or the people who have seen the Ultima games and haven't really wanted to go back and play them because of the technical problems getting them to run properly, or because of the various issues with how old they are. And I think that you could really do something good with it. It would be a mid-budget. I'm not saying it would be simple, and I'm not saying that it would be cheap, but it wouldn't have to be double A. Like, you could do something along the lines of the Wizardry games. It doesn't have to be a big budget. I don't think that you could crowdfund it nowadays, but also, I mean, come on, Richard Garriott is rich. I'm not saying he has to pay it all out of pocket. I'm just saying that he has the clout in the industry. He has the contacts with investors. I think that you could get a small studio up and running with a handful of people and start working on these games. And again, that all assumes, I will say that all assumes that Richard Garriott has the kind of unfettered access that I'm assuming that he does. It's all speculation. And I think good things could come of it. And I'm waiting and seeing if we ever hear anything about this from Garriott again, because I also have a feeling that there's a 50-50 chance that he just never acknowledges it. It'll be like Iron and Magic, that scam NFT game. It'll just, the whole idea of Garriott, assume if the deal falls through, the whole idea of him getting the IP, I feel there's about a 50-50 chance of us just never hearing about it again. And I don't think that that would be too shocking of an announcement if we never heard it. Like, if he just never followed up on it, or if somebody a couple of years from now emails him and says, hey, what's going on with the Ultima series? And he says nothing. And by that I mean he says, like, nothing is happening. But we do have a little bit of I probably have a million more topics that I could talk about, but I'm actually going to cut this one short. It's about a half an hour. I just kind of did this episode to get myself back in the groove, because if I don't, it'll be another month and a half before I do an episode. But I'm going to put this up on Patreon. I'm going to put this up on YouTube. And I guess I'll remind you again that Jamali on YouTube, patreon.com/MMO Fallout. And I will hopefully be back next week for another episode. Now, let's see if I can play the outro. Once again, Polaris, hey Sandy, see you next time.